Okay, cue the cheesy yet inspiring background music. What's up, UXers? My name is Sophia V. Prater, and I am a UX designer and the chief evangelist for the practice of object-oriented UX. So I've been teaching OUX to individuals and design teams for over 5 years now. I've taught at conferences like the IA Summit, UX Week, most recently Rosenfeld's Enterprise Experience Conference, How Design Live, EuroIA, and quite a few more. I've also taught OUX to design teams at companies like Facebook, Delta Airlines, MasterCard, Intercom, Credit Karma, Macy's, and a lot more. And this year I created a 10-week OUX certification program. So this podcast is going to be a dive into the weeds on UX systems, information architecture, human psychology and perception, data wrangling, knowledge graphs, structured content, UX process, and above all, simplifying the complex. And of course, object-oriented UX and the ORCA process. So if you don't know anything about OUX or ORCA, no worries. The first few episodes are actually going to give you a really solid introduction. But why would you even want to know about this? So let me give you the quick elevator pitch. So OUX is a philosophy and a set of principles for designing digital systems that respects the fact that people think in objects. And because they think in objects, they need consistent and recognizable objects to understand an environment or product. And if you're not with me on that, don't worry, we're going to get into the actual psychology behind how people think in objects. So we will dig into that, and I will prove it to you that people think in objects. So because that is true, if you come with me on that, OUXers, what we do is we deliberately align the software or the website to the apps that we build to our users' real-world mental model of concrete and defined objects that are valuable within their world, so that these abstract digital worlds can be as naturally intuitive as possible. So we're playing on our kind of caveman brains, or what I sometimes call our lizard brains of perception. And when I'm talking about objects, I'm not talking about your calendar pickers and your drop downs and your nav bars. Those are all digital objects. Those are all a means to an end. When I'm talking about objects, I'm talking about those real world things of value that all our digital bits and pieces represent. Okay, so one thing I say all the time is users are not coming to your site for your calendar picker. They're coming for the events, okay? Your calendar picker could be the best calendar picker in the whole wide world and nobody cares. They just want it to work, right? They're coming for the content. They're coming for the things and what they can do to those things and the superpowers that you might give them to be able to manipulate these things or see them in new ways. The other cool thing about this process is I truly believe it's a secret weapon for breaking down complexity. As OUXers, basically before we design a single pixel, a single screen, before you even start sketching, we answer 4 fundamental questions. And those questions are, what are the objects in the user's mental model / business model? Hopefully those things are aligning. So what are the objects? What are the relationships between those objects? What are the calls to action that those objects afford to users? So what can users do to these objects? And what are the attributes for each of the objects? What is the chemical makeup of each object? And so these 4 questions about objects, relationships, calls to actions, and attributes leads to my very favorite acronym in the whole world, and hopefully you will learn to love this acronym too. That is ORCA. And the ORCA process is what I teach in my workshops and in my certification program. And basically, through an iterative process, we just go through those questions over and over and over again. And we have all these different artifacts that we create that basically helps us build out UX requirements, helps us collaborate with our stakeholders and our subject matter experts and our users even to really extract the truth about an environment so that when we design our digital systems, they kind of match and they align. So on this podcast, I'll be interviewing certified OUX strategists, and I will be talking to them about how they're using object-first design and other information architecture practices with their teams and on their projects. So we'll be seeing how is this actually happening in the real world. And I'll be interviewing OUX strategists working at companies like Google and Honeywell and Lowe's and Instagram and General Electric and a bunch of freelancers and a bunch of agencies as well that are working with big and small companies and startups as well. I'll also be interviewing industry experts in the field of information architecture, content strategy, design systems, human psychology, perception, and I'll also be doing a bunch of audio OUX workshops and other sort of solo episodes of just Sophia's musings. So through these conversations, we're gonna all learn together how to make the OUX process stronger and even more revolutionary. And you're gonna learn how to actually execute the OUX process at your own company and on your own projects. So please subscribe. The first episode is coming out on September 24th. Until then, cheers and happy OUXing.